I want to thank Blueland for sponsoring this video. Do you feel your electronics and cords are out of control? Or did you leave one behind because you didn't have a spot for it? Are they awkward to retrieve and keep safe? Every time I go anywhere now, it feels like I need a suitcase just for my devices and their chargers. So it's time to make some fast and easy bags to contain them, so that everything has its place when you travel and nothing gets left behind. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. Every time I go anywhere now, it feels like my devices and chargers are everywhere. I am packing for my fire and ice cruise, so I need to corral them with some simple bags and pouches to keep it all neat so that everything has its place, and more importantly, I know when something's missing. Earlier this year, I was repairing a wool tote bag, and I realized that wool felt has the advantage of no fraying edges. And that just sent me down a felt rabbit hole. It included a visit to the felt store, and I came home with some wonderful items to play with. Wool comes in a variety of thicknesses. I have here some 1.2 millimeter, some 2 millimeter, some 3 millimeter, and some 5 millimeter. You know that you're working with the good stuff when it's soft and opaque. Wool also comes in two types of colors, solids like these or heathered colors like these. And you can purchase it in yardage or pre-cuts depending on the thickness. Some types are nice and rigid as well, so you might not need any extra padding or interfacing in your project. So the first project I tackled was a computer sleeve. In so many airports and security checks, you need to pull out your computer and send it through separately. So I need a sleeve that will keep my computer protected, well, in my bag, but still easy to access and pull out when I need to. I'm choosing the thickest felt I have, my 5 millimeter teal. Before you start, do a tester piece so that you're sure that your sewing machine can handle the thickness. I am using a 110 denim needle and a variegated 40 weight polyester thread, both on the top and in the bobbin. And these stitches look good to go. We need 2 rectangles the same size, approximately 2 inches taller and wider than your computer. It's easiest just to place your laptop on the felt and mark a line 1 inch away along both sides. Then cut with your largest rotary cutter, as this felt is thick. And you can use this first piece to mark and cut a second piece the same size. Then take some binder clips and secure the edges at 1/4 inch and test the fit. If you would like the fit tighter, move the binder clips in 1/4 inch at a time to find the sweet spot. Trim as needed. If you want to personalize your case, now is the time to do it. I decided to use this cork in this natural color, so I didn't need to worry about fraying edges here either. I cut 2 strips of identical widths, then placed them on the top piece with a tilt. Then I made them parallel and centered them. I marked the position with a chalk line so that I could keep them straight while I sewed them on. This is also the time you decide whether you want your corners square or rounded. I took one of my 1/4 square templates and trimmed the bottom corners. Because this felt is so thick, I had to do this one piece at a time. This is also the time to fit a closure if you're going to use one. I elected not to because this will be inside my purse as I travel. I want it as simple as possible to pull out and show to security. I sewed the bottom to the top with a 3/8 seam. I was aiming for 1/4 inch, but it just didn't look right. Be sure to use a lock stitch or back stitch at the beginning and the end, as these will be stress points. When I finished, the top and the bottom were not quite square to each other, so I took a moment to trim them even. So I do a final test for size, and then I take a test drive in my bag, and it's done. Total time, it took me just about an hour. One of the rules I always follow before I travel is to leave my home clean so that I can return to a tidy space. And I am so glad that I have found Blueland products to make it fast and simple. Their products are people and planet friendly because they have no plastic waste. And all I need to clean my space is these bobbin-sized tablets. And this is how it works. You fill your Forever bottle with warm to hot water just to the watermark. Drop in one of these bobbin-sized tablets into the bottle, and there's definitely something ASMR about watching the tablet dissolve. They are ready to use in minutes with no shaking or stirring, and refills run around $2.50 a tablet, which is less than a cup of coffee. My family also uses their laundry detergent, dishwasher detergent, and toilet bowl cleaner. No plastic wrappers to deal with. All you need to get started is to click on my link below to receive 15% off your first kit. Blueland is sharing this special offer just for my viewers. When I'm traveling, it's rare that I can leave my iPad behind, especially if I'm teaching. And it has several accessories that need to go with it, a keyboard and a pencil stylus. For the iPad case, we can go a little bit lighter in fabric. I'm just going to use the 3mm heathered orange. I started to follow the same process as with the laptop case, cutting 2 rectangles 1 inch bigger than my iPad on all sides. Then I tested for size with binding clips and then decided that I want a horizontal opening. Then I quickly realized that this case would need a flap to keep the iPad from falling out. And luckily, I have these magnetic closures to do the job. This also means that I've cut one side too short to flip over and be the flap. But this is felt, and I will take the strip that I trimmed from the front piece and attach it to the back piece to make it the right size. But first, I trimmed the sides for a snugger fit, and I rounded the bottom corners. And this is a good project to start using some of those fancy stitches that your machine came with. I am using a 90 denim needle and 40 weight Fabric thread. And my first seam that I make is attaching the 2 pieces together to make the flap. I'm just butting up one piece of wool to the other, being sure to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Then I trim the flap to the shape that I want. I am closing this case with 3 magnetic clasps. I place them by using my measuring hack with adding machine tape from this video here. I take a piece of adding machine tape the width of my case, then fold it in half to find the middle. Mark here. And then I fold it again to find 2 spots equidistant from the center for the 2 other clasps. With the front and the back together, and with the flap folded over, I mark where I want the height of the clasps to be. To ensure they're all at the same height, I use a steel edge ruler to transfer the mark to the right and left chalk mark. I use an X-Acto knife to cut 2 slits for the posts to pass through to the back. Add the washer and fold over those posts. These washers and posts are on the inside of my case, and they might scratch my iPad screen, so I sewed on a piece of 1.2mm felt to cover them. For the opposite side, the clasps are reversed. They need to attach to the inside of the back piece. I use the same piece of adding machine tape to mark where they sit. I cut the slits with an X-Acto knife, add the washers, and fold over the posts. When we fold over the flap, they align perfectly. Unfortunately, these washers are now visible, since this is on the outside of the flap. So I dig into my stash and pull out a piece of Tula pink ribbon that I've had for over 8 years. And it's perfect to completely cover the washers with. It's just a seam down both sides. At the end, I tuck under the ribbon and sew along the edge. Then using another fancy stitch, I sew the top to the bottom along the edge and around the top flap. I do a final trim up around all the edges. The pencil will lie at the bottom of the case, and it has enough space to hold my keyboard as well. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things that I've made recently. This is a fun little pouch. I use it to hold my cables and chargers, and it's pretty darn simple to make. It's just a triangle with the sides folded into the center, and I've cut out a couple of patterns to figure out what I need. An 8-inch triangle will make a 4-inch pouch and require a 12-inch zipper. A 12-inch triangle will make a 6-inch pouch and need at least an 18-inch zipper. So let's start with the 4-inch bag. Cut your wool triangle. I am using the 2mm felt here since I want my pouch to be firm. Trim the zipper just above the base. Then remove the pull and separate the zipper. We're only going to need one side. At this point, you can switch in another zipper pull if you prefer to use a contrasting color. And I am going to use this 40 weight variegated thread. Using clips or pins, center the zip along the longest edge of your wool triangle. At your machine, switch to your zipper foot. I am using a 90 denim needle. Sew a seam right next to the zipper. This is around a 1/16 of an inch. Then I switch to my 1D foot for decorative stitches, and I'm going to choose this one. And I sew a line of decorative stitching right next to the zipper seam. Then I trim off the ends of the zipper. Then I attach the zipper pull. Sometimes this step is easy and sometimes I just want to scream. I know there's a gadget out there that will make this job easier, but I don't do a lot of zippers this way and I can't justify that expense. So I just persevere until they sit nicely and it works. Trim any bits of the zipper still exposed. Then I sew a couple of rows of stitches over the base of the zipper to secure it. Align the back with the front and sew a narrow seam along the side. When you reach the zipper, pivot and sew along the other side. I used a straight stitch and then went over it a second time with a blanket stitch. This size is great for 2 to 3 charging cords. It's also great to store other things like dog bags, coins, jewelry, tissues, and more. Recently, I purchased these over-the-ear earphones, but now I need something to store them in. This 6-inch pouch will be perfect for them. For this, I will use the 3mm burgundy felt to give it a little bit more rigidity. I cut my 12-inch triangle and then trim my 18-inch zipper and remove the pull, and sew a seam along the zipper as in the previous example. Instead of using decorative stitches, I'm digging back into my stash for another tulip pink ribbon. I love these chickmunks, and I want them to be where you can see them when you hold the bag. So I test out a couple of layouts and decide I like them in this spot with heads facing outward. In error, I cut my ribbon too short to tuck in on the sides, so I did a tight satin stitch on the sides. Then I attached the pull. This one was harder than the first, but after enlisting a couple of extra hands from my husband, we got it done. Then sew a seam along the bottom on one side and then on the other. This pouch needed a bit of height for the earpieces, so I marked, then sewed a box seam on both sides. And I trimmed up the corners so that they were even. Not only did it have room for the earphones, but it had room for lots of charging cords as well. I can't wait to use these bags on my next trip. If you are interested in coming on a textile tour of Holland and Belgium with me this September, just follow the link on my website to get more information. Take care, and I'll see you next time.